In a world where everyone is seemingly just a message away, loneliness shouldn't exist, right? But the harsh reality for many men, from teenagers to middle-aged adults, paints a different picture. Loneliness isn't just a passing feeling, it's a deeply rooted problem that continues to grow, particularly among men. In this video, we're diving deeper into the male loneliness epidemic. We'll explore fresh angles on why this issue persists, its connection to societal structures, and actionable steps to address it, not just for men themselves, but for society as a whole. Loneliness beyond friendship, the hidden layers. When we think about loneliness, most of us imagine someone without friends, but loneliness runs much deeper. It's not just about the number of connections someone has, it's about the quality and depth of those connections. For many men, even those surrounded by people, loneliness comes from a lack of emotional intimacy. Having acquaintances or coworkers to share a laugh with doesn't replace the need for someone to talk about fears, failures, or even joys in a meaningful way. The modern workplace contributes significantly to this issue. Long hours, remote work, and competitive environments mean fewer opportunities to develop close bonds. When work dominates life, there's little room left for maintaining friendships or building new ones. And then there's romantic loneliness. A growing number of men struggle to form or sustain romantic relationships, whether due to fear of rejection, societal pressures, or lack of confidence. Without a partner to confide in, men often internalize their struggles, deepening the cycle of isolation. How societal shifts are widening the gap. The world has changed dramatically over the last few decades, and these shifts have hit men particularly hard. Urbanization, for example, has pulled people away from the small, close-knit communities where men might have leaned on lifelong friendships. In big cities where people are constantly busy and transient, forming deep bonds feels almost impossible. The rise of individualism has also played a role. In a society that celebrates self-reliance, the idea of asking for help is often seen as weakness. Men, in particular, feel the weight of this expectation. Admitting loneliness? That's almost taboo, even in today's supposedly open-minded world. Let's not forget the role of economic instability. Many men face job uncertainty, stagnant wages, and the pressure to provide. This adds stress and leaves little energy for building relationships or addressing their emotional needs. Loneliness is more than an emotional problem. It's important to recognize that loneliness doesn't just hurt emotionally, it has profound physical effects. Loneliness activates stress responses in the body, increasing cortisol levels and blood pressure. Over time, this can lead to chronic illnesses like heart disease and diabetes. For men who are already less likely to visit doctors or prioritize health, loneliness can create a deadly combination. The connection between loneliness and substance abuse is also significant. Feeling isolated, some men turn to alcohol, drugs, or even compulsive gaming as a way to escape the emptiness. The mental toll is equally staggering. Depression and anxiety are closely linked to loneliness. For many men, these conditions go untreated because seeking therapy feels like admitting defeat. This contributes to the alarmingly high suicide rates among men, a devastating outcome of unaddressed loneliness and emotional pain. Cultural pressures and generational cycles. Many of the cultural pressures men face today are inherited from past generations. Older generations grew up in environments where men were expected to be stoic providers, rarely showing emotion. This tough guy mentality has been passed down, making it hard for today's men to break the mold. In some cases, fathers unintentionally model emotional unavailability, teaching their sons that vulnerability isn't an option. This cycle creates men who struggle to express their emotions, leading to superficial connections and, ultimately, loneliness. Media and entertainment perpetuate this as well. In movies, TV shows, and ads, men are still often depicted as invulnerable, heroes who never cry, never falter, and certainly never admit they're lonely. These portrayals reinforce harmful stereotypes, making it even harder for men to embrace vulnerability. The role of technology, a double-edged sword. Technology was meant to connect us, but for many men, it's doing the opposite. Social media creates a highlight reel of others' lives, leading to feelings of inadequacy and disconnection. It's easy to believe that everyone else is thriving while you're struggling alone. Online spaces for men often lean into toxic masculinity, promoting the idea that real men don't need emotional connections. Forums, social media groups, and even memes subtly reinforce the idea that vulnerability is shameful. Dating apps are another layer of the problem. For many men, the experience of swiping through apps can feel dehumanizing. Rejection is common, and even matches often don't lead to meaningful connections. The result? Increased feelings of worthlessness and isolation. Breaking Barriers, Steps Toward Connection. So, what can be done? How can men in society work together to combat this loneliness epidemic? Breaking the cycle of male loneliness requires deliberate action and a willingness to step out of the comfort zone. The first step is often the hardest, reaching out. For men who feel isolated, even a simple act like calling an old friend, attending a local meetup, or joining a club can pave the way to meaningful connections. Building friendships takes effort, and in-person interaction, even if it feels awkward at first, is a vital component. Taking small, consistent steps toward creating social connections can gradually ease feelings of isolation. Challenging societal stereotypes is another essential step. Redefining what it means to be a man can help break down the stigma surrounding emotional vulnerability. Men need to understand that expressing emotions or admitting loneliness isn't a sign of weakness, it's an act of courage. Prioritizing mental health is equally critical. Therapy isn't just a resource for when life feels overwhelming. It's a proactive tool for personal growth and self-awareness. Seeking professional help provides men with a safe space to navigate their emotions and develop healthy coping mechanisms. Just as physical health requires maintenance, so does mental well-being. Therapy and counseling can help men build the emotional resilience needed to combat loneliness and strengthen their relationships. Finally, support from friends and family plays a transformative role. Reaching out to a friend who seems withdrawn or isolated can make all the difference. Sometimes all it takes is a simple "How are you doing?" to open the door for a deeper conversation. Small gestures like checking in or being a reliable presence can remind someone they are not alone. By fostering a culture of care and understanding, we can collectively work to address the loneliness epidemic among men and build stronger, more connected communities. Small steps for men facing loneliness. For men struggling with loneliness right now, here are some small but impactful steps. Reach out to someone you haven't spoken to in a while. A quick text or phone call can reignite a friendship. Find community events or activities that interest you. Whether it's a hiking club, a cooking class, or a volunteer organization, shared interests can lead to meaningful connections. Spend less time scrolling and more time engaging in real-life activities. It's the face-to-face moments that truly matter. Start small. Share how you're feeling with someone you trust. It might feel uncomfortable at first, but it gets easier over time. A new chapter in connection. Male loneliness isn't just an individual struggle. It's a societal issue that requires collective action. By challenging outdated norms, fostering deeper connections, and embracing vulnerability, we can begin to heal the loneliness epidemic. If you're watching this and feeling the weight of loneliness, remember, you're not alone. Taking even one small step toward connection can make a world of difference. Let's work together to break the silence, redefine masculinity, and create a world where every man feels seen, heard, and supported. Because when we lift each other up, we all rise. Thank you for being here, and let's continue this conversation. Together, we can make change happen.